The night she said it, the rain was falling the way it does when the world feels heavy, as if the sky itself is struggling to breathe. The streetlights blurred into soft halos, and the silence between us felt louder than thunder. In that fragile moment, everything I had buried for years rose to the surface at once: loneliness, fear, hope, and a love I had convinced myself I didn't deserve. If stories about kindness, second chances, and quiet love still matter to you, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Her name was Emily Carter, and she had come into my life so quietly that I didn't notice the way she rearranged everything until it was already done. I was Daniel Wright, a man who believed life was meant to be endured, not enjoyed. I worked long hours at a small auto repair shop on the edge of town, my hands permanently marked by grease and small scars that told stories no one ever asked about. My days were predictable, and my nights were empty except for the ticking of the old wall clock and the hum of the refrigerator. I told myself I liked it that way, that solitude was simpler than disappointment. Emily first appeared as a temporary solution to a problem neither of us wanted to admit we had. She needed a place to stay after leaving a job that promised stability and delivered nothing but exhaustion and unpaid wages. I had an extra room filled with boxes of old memories I never opened, and she had eyes that looked tired but still hopeful, like someone who believed the world could be kind again if she waited long enough. We agreed it was practical, temporary, and uncomplicated. At least that's what I told myself. Living together changed the rhythm of my life in ways I didn't expect. Mornings no longer began in silence. The smell of coffee drifted through the house, and sometimes soft music played from her phone as she moved around the kitchen, turning an ordinary space into something warmer. Evenings became moments of quiet companionship, sitting in the same room doing different things, the comfort of another presence slowly easing the tightness in my chest. I never said it out loud, but the house felt less like a shelter and more like a home. Emily carried her own burdens. She spoke about her father often, a strict man shaped by tradition and worry, someone who measured success by stability and appearances. She felt the weight of his expectations pressing down on her, especially as birthdays passed and questions about marriage grew louder. I could see how it hurt her, how she tried to be strong while feeling like she was constantly falling short of a standard she never chose. Watching her struggle awakened something protective in me, a desire to shield her from the harshness of a world that asked too much. The shift between us happened slowly, almost invisibly. It was in the way she remembered how I took my tea, or how I noticed when she was quieter than usual. It was in the shared laughter over small things, the unspoken understanding that grew in the pauses between words. I fought the feeling every step of the way, telling myself that caring too much was dangerous, that hope was a risk I couldn't afford. I had loved once before and lost everything I thought I was building, and the scars from that loss still shaped how I moved through life. Then came the night everything changed. Emily returned home later than usual, her shoulders slumped, her eyes rimmed with red. She moved through the house slowly, as if each step required effort. I could feel the tension before she said anything, the air thick with words waiting to be released. She told me about the call from her father, about the familiar lecture disguised as concern, about the way he reminded her that time was passing and that a woman needed a husband to be complete. The sentence lingered between us like a fragile thread, threatening to snap. In that moment, something inside me broke open. I saw her not as a temporary presence in my life, but as someone who had become essential without my permission. I realized that the fear I carried was smaller than the emptiness I felt at the thought of her leaving. Without drama or grand gestures, I told her what my heart had been whispering for months, offering her a place not just in my house, but in my life. It wasn't a declaration of perfection or a promise of an easy road, but it was honest and rooted in a desire to stand beside her. What followed wasn't an instant fairy tale. Love, I learned, doesn't erase problems, it asks you to face them together. We stumbled through conversations about fears, expectations, and the kind of future we wanted. I struggled with the belief that I wasn't enough, that my quiet life and modest means couldn't measure up to what she deserved. Emily wrestled with guilt, torn between her own happiness and the desire to please her family. There were moments of doubt, nights when sleep came slowly, and days when the weight of uncertainty pressed down hard, but there was also growth. We learned how to listen, how to compromise, and how to find strength in vulnerability. The house changed again, not just in sound and smell, but in spirit. Laughter became more frequent, and the walls seemed to hold our shared memories like a promise. I began to understand that love wasn't about meeting someone else's expectations, it was about creating something meaningful together, even if it looked different from what the world expected. When Emily finally introduced me to her father, the tension was undeniable. He studied me with the eyes of a man searching for reassurance, for proof that his daughter was safe and valued. I didn't try to impress him with words or achievements. I simply showed him who I was, a man willing to stand by his daughter, to support her dreams, and to build a life based on respect and care. It wasn't an immediate acceptance, but it was a beginning, and sometimes that's all hope needs. Time softened the edges of our struggles. Emily found work that fulfilled her, and I discovered a confidence I didn't know I possessed. Together, we created routines that felt sacred in their simplicity, shared meals, quiet walks, and the comfort of knowing someone was waiting for you at the end of the day. Love became less about dramatic moments and more about consistency, about choosing each other even when it was hard. Just before the ending, tell us in the comments what this story made you feel and whose life it reminded you of. As our story unfolded, I realized that the greatest change wasn't in our circumstances, but in who I had become. I was no longer a man hiding from connection, afraid of loss. I was someone willing to risk my heart, to believe that love could be both gentle and strong. Emily no longer saw herself as someone running out of time, she saw a future shaped by choice rather than pressure. Together, we learned that home isn't a place you find, but something you build with patience, trust, and courage. If this story touched your heart even a little, please like the video, share it with someone who believes in love that grows quietly, and leave a comment to let us know you felt it too. Your engagement means more than you know. In the end, the rain stopped, the night grew still, and the world felt a little less heavy. What began as a simple act of kindness became a second chance for two people who thought they were done hoping. And sometimes, that's all it takes for a life to change forever.